So we are talking about the movie Edgar Allan Poe's Lighthouse Keeper, which is actually based off a unfinished short story by Edgar Allan Poe, and this is kind of a old school period ghost story, and this one is directed by Benjamin Cooper, who also co-wrote this, and stars Vernon Wells. Now the story here basically focuses on a young man as he is washed ashore, and he's seemingly rescued by a lighthouse keeper played by Vernon Wells, but he soon starts to see various sort of ghostly images. There seems to be a kind of a young pretty woman kind of walking around that the lighthouse keeper seems to kind of dismiss that there's no one there, and things go from weird to worse. So that's all I'll say. This is very much an old school style of kind of ghost horror movie, very much in the tradition of Edgar Allan Poe. It has got its fingerprints all over it, but does it succeed as a film? I've got to say, not really, to be honest. Sadly, I thought this film, it really kind of strains under the budget in many areas, but I would say three ones that are particularly noticeable. Firstly, the acting here. The acting here, I think, is the first thing that you'll notice. I think, unfortunately, it's quite weak. Matt O'Neill, who plays JP, who is the kind of the survivor who is washed up along shore, unfortunately not the best actor, and since he gets the most screen time, unfortunately it's more on his shoulders than anyone else. But not the best acting, but it's pretty much, it's not fantastic acting from the majority of cast, even though Vernon Wells, does quite a good grizzled lighthouse keeper. I feel that maybe the direction wasn't quite as good, and that's my second thing. I feel the direction here is a little on the weaker side. I don't feel there was enough direction given to the actors about what to do on screen and things like that. Similarly, I would say the editing is quite poor at that, and I also kind of really put that down to the direction. And the third thing here is some of the special effects. And this isn't a special effects heavy movie, but there are quite a extensive use of kind of green screen and kind of the overuse of it, I'd say, and certainly the top and tail of the movie, and it looks so jarring. Unfortunately, the actual, when we see the actual lighthouse and the kind of the storm and things like that, it looks like a cartoon. And there's a scene where we see a ship run ashore, and man, it literally looks like an animated movie in that particular sort of sequence. So there's some pretty poor effects. Now, they're the three I feel on the surface of it that you'll notice, but there's also the story when it gets to about the halfway mark. It gets a little bit over convoluted, I would say, and kind of sort of falls apart under its own weight. I mean, on the plus side, this is quite a intriguing plot, although I feel it's sometimes a little obvious about where it's going to go, if that makes sense. I don't feel you need to be a particular cinephile to work out what's actually happening, but when it's all said and done, I feel the way it's presented comes across as a little convoluted at times. But overall, if you like a very much an old school sort of ghost story, if you like the kind of the ghost stories that you kind of saw in the 70s, particularly if they were kind of period pieces, then you kind of may like this kind of slow burn of a movie. But I would say it's really kind of crumbled under the kind of the budget and the kind of the amateurish feel that this movie has. But it's certainly interesting if you like sort of classic literature, I would say. Obviously, if you're a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, then I feel it does a fairly good job of that kind of feel. I feel that is kept intact, but I feel the presentation on it and kind of the finishing touches were sorely lacking in this movie. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. And one last thing, if you want a drinking game with this movie, have a drink every time they say the word peninsula. You'll be pissed. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.